I understand. He's setting a foundation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is Mr. Ladd?
Yes.
Yes, if you could raise your right hand, face this gentleman here.
You solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth and nothing but the honor. Thank you. Please have a seat.
Mr. Ladd, as I've advised other witnesses, if you would lean into the microphone when you speak so to make sure that all the jurors can hear you, okay?
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Please state and spell both your first and last name.
Rebecca Jalad, REVECKA JALLAD.
Ms. Mariano.
Thank you. How do you know Amy Harwood?
We became close friends through working together, modeling, photo shoots, things like that.
When would you say, approximately, you don't need to give me an exact date, of when you guys met?
Wow. Sorry. I would say 2008.
And you've known each other ever since, I assume?
Yes.
Would you say that since knowing each other since 2008, quite a long time, that you were good friends?
Yes.
Well, she said the witness herself said she was, the word she used, the characterization was close friends. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you keep in touch?
Yes.
How often would you say you kept in touch with Amy throughout your friendship?
Every few months. We didn't talk for a few years. And then we had rekindled our friendship. And then once that happened, typically we'd be in contact every few months or so.
What about in the months leading up to her death? How often would you say you spoke during that time?
I would say once every few weeks. We became a lot closer.
Now, in the time that you've known Amy, have you ever seen her smoke any tobacco products?
No, never.
Any sort of nicotine products?
No.
Did you ever see her ingest nicotine in any form?
No.
Prior to her death, when was the last time you saw her?
It was February 14th. We went to an event together.
And is that Valentine's Day?
Yes.
What did you do that day on Valentine's Day?
We went to a burlesque show.
And you're referencing we. Who are you talking about, we?
Myself, Amy, and our friend Sarah.
And where was this burlesque show located?
At the Globe Theater in downtown LA.
And was that on 7th and Broadway?
Yes.
How did you get to the Globe Theater that evening?
I took an Uber.
And where were, you don't have to tell us the exact location, but the general location of where you were coming from?
I was coming from 711 Olive Street.
Okay, so the exact location.
That was my office, so I remember the address.
So you Ubered from 711 Olive Street. That's just a few blocks away, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know about what time you arrived at the Globe Theater?
Must have been around 7:30.
Did you meet Amy and your friend Sarah there?
Yes.
Who arrived first?
Amy was there first.
And then who arrived second?
I did.
And when did Sarah arrive?
Probably about 20 minutes after I got there.
Now, is Sarah also a friend of yours?
We had just met that night.
That was the first time you'd ever met Sarah?
Yes.
And is that from a friend of Amy's?
Yes, she was a friend of Amy's.
Was Amy responsible for kind of setting up the night?
She was.
Now, when you were at the Globe Theater, did you take any photographs while you were there?
We did.
Your Honor, at this time, the people are holding 3 photographs with a witness. May that be marked as People's 12, A, B, and C?
Yes.
Michelle, I'm showing you what's been marked as People's 12A. Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes.
Is this a photograph that was taken of you while at the Globe Theater?
Yes.
Could you tell us who's who in the photograph?
Sure. From left to right, Amy, Tosh, Miss Tosh, I'm not, she was a dancer there, so I don't know her full name. And then Sarah and myself.
So when you say Tosh was a dancer there, that's not one of the people that was out with you at the Globe Theater, is that correct?
No, she was one of the performers.
In the burlesque show?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you guys were wearing. Was there a uniform for the night?
There was. We were to wear all either pink or red.
And whose idea was that?
That was Amy's.
And you had all discussed that prior to this day?
We did. Well, on the day. Yeah.
Do you remember the accessories that Amy was wearing that evening?
I do.
And what accessories were those?
She had a leather jacket on with her. She also had rosary necklaces.
I'm zooming in on a photograph here of People's 12A, and I'm pointing to what appears to be a necklace, or 2 necklaces. Are those the necklaces that you're referring to Amy having worn that night?
Yes.
Now, did you take additional photos at the Globe Theater, aside from the one I'm showing you here?
We did. Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as People's 12B. Is this the photograph that was also taken there?
Yes.
And could you point out who's who in this photograph?
I'm to the right and Amy's to the left. Sorry.
You said you're to the right and Amy's to the left?
I'm sorry. I'm on the left and Amy's on the right.
You're to the left and Amy's to the right. If you need a moment, just let me know and we can pause.
Do you have tissues up there? Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, it's right behind the screen. Just reach behind the screen right there. Yeah, there you go. Right, your hands right there.
Oh,
There you go.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. There's not much room right there.
I'm going to show you one more photo, Michelle. People's 12C. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
Is that another photo that was taken that evening?
Yes.
And could you tell us who's in the photo?
Myself to the left and Amy to the right.
Now, how long do you recall was the burlesque show?
It finished around 9:30, so like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Now, did you decide to go somewhere after the Globe Theater?
Yes.
So what time would you say you actually left?
Between 9:45 and 10 p.m.
And where did you go?
We first went to my office at 711 Olive Street. And then we went to the Nomad Hotel, which was across the street.
What's the Nomad?
It is a hotel / eatery. They have food, drinks,
Gotcha.
and it is a hotel.
Did all of you go there?
Yes, we did.
So that was Sarah, Amy, and yourself?
Yes.
Could you kind of tell us logistically how that took place?
Yeah, so Sarah and I had both Ubered there, so Amy drove us back.
What do you mean Amy drove you back?
We went in her car.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
And we drove to my office. And
So just to be clear, so that I'm not confused, Sarah drove both yourself and Sarah in her car back to your office located at 711 Olive Street.
Yes.
And that's located across the street from the Nomad?
Yes.
Where did Amy park?
In the down under garage of my building. I had parking there, so
Is that where you had also parked earlier in the evening?
yes, my car was there.
And why did you decide to drive back with Amy and have her park there?
She'd taken her car, and it's safer. You know, my building is safe and secure parking.
Gotcha.
So, and we knew we wanted to go to the Nomad, and I said, "Well, my business is right there, so let's just go park. It's a gated parking, so."
What time would you say after leaving the Globe Theater did you arrive at the Nomad?
Probably around 10:30. Wasn't
What did you guys do once you were there?
we talked? We had something to eat. Amy had tea.
And when you say you laugh when you say Amy had tea, why did you laugh?
Because she loves tea. I don't know.
Okay. And you said you and Sarah had some drinks. Is that right?
Yeah, not alcoholic, just because we were ending the night. So
About how long would you say you stayed at the Nomad with Amy and Sarah?
we left around midnight. Yeah.
And when you say
12,
we, did all three of you leave at the same time?
Yes, we did.
Where did you each go from there? Let's start with Sarah.
Sarah took an Uber to where her car was parked, and Amy and I walked back to my office.
Did you go straight home from there?
No,
What did you guys do once you and Amy walked back to your office?
we went up to my actual office. She wanted to see it, and I had just gotten a puppy, and she just wanted to see the puppy. And so we just went up there, and we were just talking for a moment. I had to gather my things. I didn't want her going to the garage by herself, and so we went back down together.
How much time would you say you spent in your office playing with your new puppy? And
Not much time, maybe 10 minutes, because we just both wanted to get home. It's late.
And you said that you had both walked down to the garage together.
Yes.
And we're talking about the parking garage.
Yes.
What happened once you got down to the parking garage?
We talked for a few minutes by our car, and then we both got in our cars and went to the freeway together, and I followed her on the freeway, and then, we went our separate ways.
And what time would you say that was when you finally, got into your cars and drove out of the parking garage?
Well, it doesn't take very long to get home. Must have been 12:30. It was a pretty, maybe 20 minutes or so. We went up and came down, and then we left.
And where did you go from your office?
I went to my house.
And how long you said it takes you? Did you say 20 minutes to get home?
Or so, yeah. I got home at 1 a.m.
Now, did you hear from Amy at any point after parting at the garage to arriving at your house?
Yes.
And how did you hear from her?
As soon as I was pulling into my garage at my home, she texted me and asked me to send her pictures.
Your Honor, at this time, the people are holding 2 pages of screenshots of text messages. May that be marked as people's 13A and 13B?
Yes.
And just preliminarily, I'm going to leave this exhibit up. I just want to let counsel know, just because the next series of questions will be involved with this exhibit, Your Honor.
We're our discussion had to do with photographs. So not so much text and so forth and or these. As long as you're asking on the issue of the witness, that's fine. You're within the court's order.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right.
So you said that you received a text message from Amy at what time?
It was 102.
Now I'm gonna show you, let's see, 13A. Do you have a good view of that in the screen in front of you?
I do, yes.
Now, do you recognize this to be your phone based on these text messages?
Yes, with my phone.
Showing you the initial text message here, send me the selfies we took. Is that a text message from you or?
That's
sent?
from Amy.
That's from you.
Yes,
And do you see the timestamp right above there?
I do.
Okay. And what's the timestamp?
1:01 a.m.
And that is a text message you received from Amy?
Yes,
Now, there's a second text message in blue saying okay,
yes,
and with a timestamp of 1:02 a.m.
yes,
Is that your response to Amy's text message?
yes,
And you said that's what time you came home?
yes, because I distinctly remember as soon as I pulled into my garage, I got the message. I was in my car and I responded before I even went into my house.
So upon seeing that text message, you immediately responded.
Yes,
Now, and these are the photographs that we see on the screen that I showed you earlier, is that correct?
yes,
I'm going to show you people's 13B. These are the other photographs that we talked about on the direct examination in people's 12. Is that correct?
yes,
There is a timestamp on the right side here of 1:07 a.m. Are those text messages that you had sent between the times of 1:02 and 1:07?
I sent them all at once, and it looks like some of them just got delivered a little later.
Did you get a response from Amy after sending these messages?
No,
And when was the last time you ever heard from Amy?
when she texted me to send the photos.
So the text messages that we're viewing is the last communication you ever had with Amy prior to her death?
Yes,
Thank you, nothing further.
Counsel, you can, are you gonna use those photographs?
I have no questions.
Okay, you have no questions? Okay, you can take those down. Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
thank you.
You're welcome. You-
The people called Maricela Mendoza.
Go ahead. All right, ma'am, if you could face my clerk, please.
Please raise your right hand. Yes. You solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Please state and spell both your first and last name.
Maricela Mendoza, MARICELA
All right, counsel.
Thank you. Do you know Amy Harwick?
Yes, I do.
How do you know each other?
We've been friends for about 20 years. We were friends for about 20 years.
How did you guys meet?
We met many years ago through Coffin Case, which is a company we both modeled for back in the day.
Were you good friends?
Yes, we were.
Did you maintain regular contact with each other over this period of about 20 years?
Yes, we did.
Would you say you kept in touch often?
Yes, we did.
And could you tell me what often means?
Often was every other day. We'd talk, or we'd go have waffles, or we'd go eat, or we'd go have coffee. Or there was only one period where I distanced myself, and that's when I lost my boyfriend who passed away. So, but that was just a grieving process. And then we picked up again after I was ready.
So you kept in touch fairly often.
Yes.
In the time that you've known her for I think you said 20 years. Had you ever seen her smoke any tobacco products?
Absolutely not.
Ingest any tobacco products?
Absolutely not.
Ingest any form of nicotine whatsoever?
Absolutely not.
Now, do you know someone by the name of Gareth Pursehouse?
Yes, I do.
Do you see him in court today?
Yes, I do.
Could you please identify him by telling us where he's seated and what he's wearing?
I'm assuming that is him at the very far right. Looks a little different than I remember, but I think that's him on the far right over there.
What's he wearing?
He's wearing a blazer with a blue collar shirt.
All right, defendant.
How do you know the defendant?
We met through Amy.
Could you tell me about when you first met the defendant?
Objection relevance.
Sustain.
I think, Your Honor, it will go to it's foundational.
All right. I'll give you some leeway back to that.
When did you first meet the defendant?
I'm not too certain if it was around 2009 or 2010.
And was the defendant and Amy dating at the time that you met him?
Objection relevance.
Hold on.
Yes.
And seeing that they were dating, did you spend time with the both of them?
Yes, I did.
At the time that you were hanging out with Amy and the defendant at the same time, did you know what he did for a living?
Objection relevance.
Sustain.
I believe it's foundational as well. Your Honor.
Well, let's move on to it.
Now, when you were with hanging out with both the defendant and Amy, were you aware of how long they dated?
Objection relevance.
Good answer, you know.
I'm not sure how long they were dating. I know that they had been off and on for a while. I tried to not be around them as much.
Objection non-responsive.
Okay, the answer will stand. Let's ask our next question if you would, please.
Do you know if they were ever living together?
Yes, they were.
In fact, had you ever been to their shared residence while they were dating?
Yes, many times.
Objection relevance. That's to this on the question.
The answer will stand that they were living together and that she had been there. Okay.
Were you pretty familiar with their relationship?
Objection relevance.
All right, sustain.
Without getting into the details, would you describe their relationship as volatile?
Objection.
Let's approach it. You would.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Please hit that like button and thank you for being here with me. I'm not used to going through breaks because I'm usually streaming late and we fast forward through the breaks. So, hey, Clumsy, I didn't see you come in. I am talking to Avriel's cousin. She will be on tonight to celebrate Avriel's life. So don't forget about that. It'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm working on it right now.
All right, Kelsey.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I repeat the question?
Yes.
Without getting into details, would you describe their relationship as volatile?
Yes.
Objection leading.
Well, that was the last question that was asked. You're objecting as leading. The court's going to allow the answer to stand based on the court's order that we don't want to get into areas that the court thinks are relevant. If counsel understands where I'm going with this.
I
Go
do.
ahead. All right.
Do you know around the time of when that relationship ended?
I'd say it might have been late 2010, 2011, before 2012.
Was it an amicable breakup?
Objection foundation.
Well, sustain. Unless you lay a foundation with respect to that.
You said that you were friends with Amy Harwick for 20 years. Did you remain friends with Amy during her relationship with the defendant?
Yes.
Did that include the time frame when Amy and the defendant broke up in the time frame that you gave around 2011.
Yes.
Did Amy confide in you regarding her relationship with the defendant?
Yes.
When she confided in you, did that include the time period in which her and the defendant broke up?
Yes.
Was her breakup with the defendant amicable?
Objection hearsay.
Court will allow.
No.
Did Amy stay in contact with the defendant after that breakup?
Objection hearsay, foundation, speculation.
All right. Yeah, any more? The court will sustain it. Go ahead.
Were you aware of any attempts by the defendant to reconcile with Amy?
Objection, foundation, hearsay, speculation.
All right, sustained.
Were there any measures that you were aware of that Amy took in order to cut off contact with the defendant?
Objection, foundation, hearsay.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes, let's approach.
Hey, Avery. Clumsy, I'm working on it right now. I'm looking for a picture.
All right, counsel.
To your knowledge, did Amy stay in contact with the defendant after their breakup?
No.
Did she want to stay in contact?
Objection.
The answer stands that they did not keep in contact? Is that right?
Yes. They did not.
Okay, I'll allow the next answer with your question. Do you have a response to that last question?
What was it again?
May I ask a question again? Your Honor? Did she want to stay in contact
No.
with the defendant? Now, I want to talk to you about January of 2020. Did you speak to Amy about the defendant during January of 2020?
Yes, I did.
Could you explain how that conversation came about?
It was just at a party at her house, and I just felt like his energy was around with the work that I do.
Objection, foundation, speculation.
All right, sustained. So you were at a party, and then I sustain your objection. So you were at a party, take it from there.
Motion to strike.
That part of it will.
We were at a party, and I asked about if she had spoken to him, and she said she hadn't spoken to him in years.
And this was at a party at her house?
Yes.
And you had brought that up?
Objection, relevant.
Overruled. It's foundational, I take it.
Yes.
Good.
Since that party, had you had another conversation with Amy about the defendant in January of 2020?
Yes.
And how did that conversation come about?
She called me after the night of the X Awards.
The XBiz Awards?
Yes.
And was that January 17th of 2020?
Yes.
And this was a phone call.
Yes.
What did she tell you when she called you?
She just told me what happened at the event.
Right, as long as we're going to the state of mind.
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, very good.
She just told me what happened at the event.
Did she tell you that she ran into the defendant?
Objection, leading.
Famed. Okay, let's see. This case is the 2020 murder of Dr. Ann. Her former boyfriend and stalker took her life. Famed sex therapist Amy Harwick was
Probably
found out.
better, even though it is leading, but at least it doesn't run the danger of going into other areas. Or you can ask her what exactly she told her about
I'll
that.
withdraw it.
Okay, she'll withdraw it. You can pinpoint.
Who?
Was she specific about her interaction with the defendant at the XBiz Awards?
Yes.
What did she tell you about her interaction with the defendant?
She just was, I mean, everybody has heard it already. He threw a tantrum at the show.
Is that the word you used, Tim?
Not a tantrum. He went crazy is what she said.
Was she specific to you on the phone about who approached who?
He approached her.
She told you that?
Yes.
Did she describe to you on the phone what his demeanor was during this interaction?
Erratic.
Did she provide any instances of description, or did she provide description about his erratic behavior?
That he was still stuck in the past.
And did she say anything else about that?
She just was talking about what happened, that she had seen him and that he broke down and that he started pulling out text messages and making a scene in front of everybody. And she was really embarrassed and she just wanted to neutralize the situation. So they went off to the side to talk, and whatever happened, I wasn't there.
So let me try to break that down just a little bit. You said that she was specific about the defendant approaching her.
Yes.
You indicated that she told you something about text messages.
Sexual meeting.
Well, she's reiterating what this witness just stated.
What did she say about those text messages?
He was just pulling up text messages from the past as if they had just happened yesterday.
And did she tell you what he did when he pulled up these text messages?
That he was
Objection. This is far beyond the grounds of state of mind.
Okay, unless it's going to that state of mind specifically, the court's going to sustain the objection. So.
Did he tell you what? My question is, did he read text messages to her, or he just pulled them up? I'm a
he was
little
reading.
confused as to what that means.
Yeah, it remains that he was texting her. Okay.
I think the question I had for the witness is to make it clear that they weren't text messages that were being sent at the time of the interaction, but from the past. That's
yes, they were from
essentially the
past.
question.
All right.
So to be clear, were those text messages, did she refer to those text messages as text messages that were exchanged between herself and the defendant from the past?
From the past, from years ago.
Thank you. That was my question. Did she provide any specific statements he said to her during this interaction?
Interaction at the show?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Objection far beyond the grounds of state of mind.
And now it's going to state of mind.
Your Honor, can we approach so that we
You
have
know,
it
ladies and
uninterrupted?
gentlemen, any of you own the stepmaster? Because I keep going down these steps.
A stairmaster. Okay, let me go back up and read this. Famed sex therapist Amy Hardwick was found outside of her Hollywood Hills home struggling to hold on to her life after allegedly being thrown off of a third-story balcony in 2020. Hardwick died at a hospital shortly after the fall from blunt force injuries to her head and torso, along with evidence of strangulation. Oh, she used to be engaged to Drew Carey. Hello, everyone. Please hit that. Hey, Angela. Please hit that like button for me, please. I'm still working on the thumbnail for tonight, but I have a few people in here that's going to share the live for tonight.
Okay.
I think we left off. I asked you about some text messages, or I'm sorry, some statements. Did Amy tell you about specific statements he said to her during the interaction at the XBiz Awards?
I don't recall the exact things that she said he was saying.
Did she talk about his emotional state?
Yes,
And what was it that she told you about his emotional state?
that he was erratic.
Did she use any other sort of descriptors in regards
He was
to
crying. He was very emotional. That he got on the floor. He was crying on the floor.
that he got on the floor?
Yeah.
Did she tell you how she responded to the defendant as a result of his erratic behavior?
Yes.
And how did she tell you she responded?
She was scared, but she also, is a therapist. So she wanted to diffuse the situation.
Did she tell you how she tried to diffuse that situation?
Just for some clarity, you stated she was scared. Is that something she said to you?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry. No problem, Your Honor. Did she tell you what she did to try to diffuse the situation?
She tried to talk him down, or talk him down the ladder, is what she said.
Did she sound concerned for her personal safety when you spoke to her?
Yes.
And what was her tone of voice when she was speaking to you in regards to her personal safety?
She was scared. She was, she didn't know what to do. She didn't know if he was going to come back.
Objection non-responsive.
Oral, is that what she told you?
Yes.
Now, I know this was a conversation over the phone, so you don't have like the benefit of
Yeah.
seeing someone when they speak. Could you tell by her tone of voice over the phone that she was scared?
Yes.
What was her tone of voice on the phone?
Well, it frightened. She was talking really fast. She just didn't know what she was going to do. I had told her to go to the police. I had told her to beef up her security, if possible.
Now, speaking of
Objection narrative.
Well, that part of it, the police and so forth is hearsay, so the court will sustain that part.
Motion to strike.
Sure.
Speaking of security, did she talk to you about taking any sort of security measures as a result of this encounter with the defendant at the XBiz Awards?
Yes.
What did she say about that?
And she was going to get her cameras ready, and she was going to bring her roommate back to feel safer in her house. She had felt safe with the roommate there.
Now, I know that we've been talking about this phone conversation that you had with Amy on January 17th. Did you also exchange text messages with Amy in January in regards to this interaction with the defendant at the XBiz Awards?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the people are holding a screenshot of a text message between the witness and Amy. Will that be marked People's 14?
Yeah, is that one page?
It is one page.
Yes, Mark.
Show me what's been marked as People's 14. Do you recognize this screenshot?
Yes.
Now, how do you recognize this?
That's the conversation Amy and I had after she ran into Gareth.
Now, we can see here that there are text messages that are white, and then there are also text messages here. I know there's a black portion of it that are blue.
Yes.
Which text messages are Amy's?
Amy is the top white, and mine is the redacted.
The blue?
Yes.
Now, do you remember when it is that you received this text message?
I think that was on the 17th.
Was this before or after your phone call?
This was after the phone call.
Now, it says here, also, I had to block Gareth. He continued to message me after I told him I did not want to have contact. He even said that you sent your psychic energy to control the Star Trek episode that he's watching that reminded him of me. This is really scary. Is this a text message that Amy sent to you after your phone call where she told you about the incident?
Correct.
And how soon after receiving how soon after the phone call did you receive this text message?
This was just a few hours after.
Now, when was the last time you spoke to Amy prior to her death?
A few days before.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, state of mind, we've been talking a lot about state of mind and so forth. And the state of mind sometimes includes hearsay, but it is, the best example I can give you is if someone went up to one of you and said, I'm going to sock you, not that that was stated in this case, but let's say, I'm going to punch you right now. It isn't so much for the truth that the person was going to punch you, but rather what effect it had on your state of mind. Were you afraid? Were you dismissive or what have you? Okay, so that's a nuance, and you'll get an instruction at the end of this case with respect to that. Okay, counsel, cross-examination.
No question.
Okay, you may step down, ma'am. Thank you. Your next witness. What's the next witness?
I'm sorry, Your Honor?
What's the name of the witness?
This traveler will be calling Michael Herman.
Michael Herman.
No,
Okay.
actually.
No?
Sangeeta
I'm sorry. Sangeeta
Easy
Balaji.
for you to say. Okay.
You gotta say that.
And
How do you spell that last name?
BALAJI. A-N-I.
Okay. Sorry? Oh, second page. Okay, thank you.
Let me call Montano. Let me call
I see.
Damien Montano.
Oh, you're gonna call Montano? Is that Damien?
Damien Montano.
Okay. Mr. Montano? Yes, if you can approach the witness, stand down here, please. Before you have a seat, if you can face this gentleman here.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Please state and spell both your first and last name.
Damien Montano.
Spell them, please.
Oh, sorry, it's Damian. Last name is Montano.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Montano, looking here at people's number one, it's an aerial photograph. You see the location where, on the home, it has the location of 2078 Mountain Street.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with that location?
I am. It's
Huh?
part. I'm sorry.
How are you familiar with that location?
It's part of my property, so it's a lower level rental unit.
And do you live on that property?
I do. I live at 2080.
And back on February 14th, 2020, Valentine's Day, did you live at that location?
Yes, I did.
And what part of that location did you live at?
My property is the whole first floor. It's hillside, so that lower unit only starts on the back half of the house. So mine is the entire top level.
And would yours be the closest to Mound Street?
Yes, it is.
And at your home, did you have any cameras?
I do.
I'm sorry.
I do.
And did you have those cameras back on February 15th, 2020?
Yes, I did.
What kind of cameras are those?
They're ring motion sensor cameras. So if they sense movement, light goes off and it starts recording.
And were those cameras triggered back on February 15th, 2020 in the morning?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember about what time they were triggered?
108.
Your Honor, I have a DVD with 2 videos and labeled 2078 Mound Street. May this be people's next in order?
You're at 6:15, excuse me.
15?
15, yes.
15. I should play the recording.
Yes.
I'm going to show you a video in a moment and ask you if you recognize what's shown here.
Okay.
The first video clip is labeled 2080 Mound 1. Do you see the timestamp?
Yes, sir.
what's the timestamp on that video?
108 and 12 seconds.
And when you installed these Ring cameras, were you aware whether the timestamp on them was accurate?
Yes,
How do you know that?
because I've often checked to see what activity is going on. You can do a live feed. The live feed is always accurate. So every time I've checked it, it's been accurate.
And do you recognize the individual that was on that video clip that we just played?
No, I did not. That was why I didn't answer the door.
Let me play the second. And your camera, for how many minutes it's set up to record someone if they set up the motion?
I believe it's 30 seconds with a 5-second rest before it kicks on for 30 more seconds. I believe that's what it does.
I'm going to show you a video labeled 2080 Mountain 2. This is another video of that same individual. I'll ask you about the timestamp in a moment. What was the timestamp on this second video?
108 and 49 seconds.
And then you see the individual leave the location of your home and go across the street or something like that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did someone request for you to provide these Ring videos?
Yes.
And who was that?
Detective Tyler Adams, and then later Detective Carranza had requested them through Ring. I guess Ring has a system where police can request videos directly from Ring. So Ring contacts me and asks me if I give permission to share those, which I did.
When you gave those Ring videos to Detective Taylor, when was that?
I believe it was on the 15th. So it was pretty shortly after the incident happened.
So the same day, February 15, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Randall or Mr. Silva?
No questions.
All right, so you may step in. Ladies and gentlemen, rather than call another witness right now, let's go ahead and take a break, 15 minutes if you will, please. Thank you.
15. I need to find something for us to watch while they go on break. I should have been done that. Hey, I'm glad at least that, hey, JC, I'm glad at least it's in my time zone. It's not like 5 o'clock in the morning to do a trial. Let's see what we could watch. Let's watch.
Moving along with this trial, I am aware that at least a couple of you have planned trips. One to Italy, which is nice, and so forth. So we are moving along. Some good news is that this Friday we had scheduled, the attorneys have scheduled, there's going to be a witness who's going to come in to testify. And instead, the attorneys have stipulated, and that means they've agreed to a fact or a process, in this case, a process. That witness will not be necessary for Friday, and that was scheduled for this Friday. What I'm trying to tell you is you'll be off on Friday. It's going to be off for a 4-day weekend, okay?
Oh,
right.
wow.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
I thought you had to go to work, Your Honor.
I'm not saying anything. You said that. So any event, okay? Just so you're on par with us. All right, your next witness, if you would, please.
Yes.
Wait, that was not a break.
Okay.
Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Please state and spell both your first and last name.
Sure. It's Sangeeta, Sangeeta, Balani, Balani.
All right, Counsel.
Yes. Can you please tell the jury what it is that you do for a living?
I am a custodian of records for the Los Angeles Police Department
And how long have you been doing that job?
for about 7 years.
Can you explain to the jury exactly what it is that you do in that job?
When people call 911 and those records are required, we retrieve those recordings and the typed records as needed.
Okay. And so does that include the audio recordings for the 911 calls?
Yes,
Does that include records documenting what time exactly the 911 call came in?
yes,
And in this case, were you asked to retrieve the 911 records related to a call that occurred back on February 15, 2020 at about 1:14 in the morning related to a roommate screaming for help?
yes,
Your Honor, I have in my hand a 3-page document. Page 1 has a title affidavit with an affidavit from Sangeeta Balani, the witness. May this be marked People's Next in Order, People's number
Here, 16.
People's 16. And I'm going to mark each page A, B, and C.
All right.
All right, looking at page A of this exhibit, can you just briefly describe to the jury what is shown there?
that's an affidavit signed by me saying that I'm the one that retrieved the records and I've done it to the best of my ability.
Now, when you say retrieve the records, was there a request from someone to retrieve the records?
Yes, from the detective.
Looking at page 2 of this exhibit, can you tell us what is shown here?
I'm sorry.
Can you tell us what is shown here?
Oh, that is the request that was by the detective, and it indicates the date, the incident number, and any information related to that particular incident, and that he wanted the printout and the CD, which is the 911 recording.
And were you able to pull the audio recordings for the 911 call related to this incident and the log?
Yes,
Looking here at page C, page with the title Incident Recall, has a name at the very top, Michael. What's that supposed to indicate?
that is the person that was calling 911.
And what did you document for the time of the first 911 call?
The time indicates 01:14 hours.
And how do we know that that time's correct?
When you listen to the recording, it corresponds with the incident. It is when the call comes in, the operator's typing in the address and what exactly the person is reporting. According to that, the incident is generated and there's a timestamp that's created.
And the timestamp that's created is based on what are you relying on to make sure it's accurate? Well, what's that time based on?
The time is correct. It's checked it's done a weekly check by the system monitor operators to make sure that it is on point.
And here, right next to 114, there's comments. Who types in those comments?
The operator receiving the call.
So the operator is making a summary of whatever she's being told by whoever's calling 911.
Correct.
And here the summary was PR, MW, and so on. Can you translate what's being said here on this now? Or what summary the 911 operator wrote?
Sure. It says see the PR, which is person reporting, male white. He's wearing white shirt outside the location. That means he's standing outside. We'll direct to person reporting's roommate screaming for help, possible 242, which is battery involved.
And now this information goes out to who?
I'm sorry?
This information
Oh,
on the 911 call, do the 911 operators provide that information to some other people?
so once they get that information, they broadcast this information to the officers in the field.
So they receive, this is the type of information they're receiving for this incident.
Correct.
So they're supposed to be looking for a male white who may have blood on his shirt. Or I'm sorry, he's wearing a white shirt.
Correct.
And then did you provide the 911 calls related to this incident and the logs to the detectives that requested it?
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, you may step down. Thank you, ma'am.
People call Michael Herman to the stand. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Herman, if you would step down here, please. Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please have a seat. Please state and spell both your first and last name.
Michael Herman, Michaelherman.
Counsel.
Mr. Herman, how old are you?
50.
I want to draw your attention back to 2020. Back then, where were you living?
I was living in the Hollywood Hills off Mound Street.
You're at
I'm sorry.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Looking here at People's Exhibit number 1, an aerial photograph showing 2086 Mount Street and 278 Mount Street. Were you living at 2086 Mount Street in 2020?
I was.
And did you live there with someone?
Yes.
And who was that?
Amy Harwick.
Looking at People's Exhibit number 9. You recognize who that is?
Yeah.
And who is that?
That's Amy.
And now you know that she died on February 15th, 2020.
Yes.
Prior to that date, how long had you been living at that location with her?
Probably around 5 months.
And did you stay there every day, or were there times when you were there, not there?
I traveled probably around 50% of the time.
What does that mean? You're gone 50% of the time.
Well, if you add up the days in a month, like I'm probably gone 2 weeks out of the month, like traveling for business.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you to speak a little louder so the jurors back here can hear you. So speak into the mic if you can.
Okay, sure.
All right. So you said you would travel for business and that you would be gone. How much time?
On average, about 50% of the time.
And what is it that you did for a living back then?
I was consulting with chains of stores who were wanting to manufacture overseas or go straight to manufacturers and not use like middlemen anymore.
And prior to Amy's death, did she ever tell you whether anything was causing her concern?
Yes.
Okay, what did she tell you in that regard?
She was really worried about an ex-boyfriend that she had a restraining order against.
And did she tell you why she was concerned for this ex-boyfriend?
Yeah.
What did she tell you?
She said that
Without getting into details of any specific incident, just in general, what did she tell you about why she was afraid of this?
she felt like he was capable of and did physically harm her in the past.
Whenever I can withdraw that answer and ask another
Was
question.
that due to that question or something previously? All right.
Hello, it's me again. How are you? Please hit that thumbs up button for me. I'm Yvette going control somebody. I'm serious about them neon spandex. I don't have a picture yet though. Let's see. And I told my mommy yesterday that I had to go to the store and see what size I was. So I'm going to tour it and see what size I am. Because these clothes are just too big. You guys, when am I going to stop losing weight?
Yes, I'm ready.
This witness responded to a question to the following. She felt like he was capable, I take it to Ms. Hartwick, felt like he said he was capable of doing and did do physical harm in the past. She felt like he was capable of doing harm, physical harm will remain. As far as the doing harm in the past, there is no basis for that. And so the court will strike that. And so you're not to consider that at all, ladies and gentlemen, all right? So that's why it's important that you follow the court's instructions with regard to that. Now, you have a stipulation to read. Now, stipulation, again, ladies and gentlemen, is a fact or set of facts that the attorneys will agree on whatever the stipulation may state, and you're to accept them as facts or evidence as having been established by the evidence in this case, okay? So it's not an issue at this point, if you would, go ahead.
A restraining order naming Amy Harwick as a protected person was issued on April 12th, 2012, ordering Gareth Pursehouse to stay 100 yards away from her home, job, and vehicle. The restraining order expired on April 11th, 2015. It was not in effect on the date of the incident.
So stipulated defense,
So stipulated.
prosecution?
Yes.
All right, court will accept stipulation, go ahead.
Thank you. Were you present for any measures that were taken to secure the home prior to February 15, 2020?
Yes.
What did you observe or hear as far as any protective measures?
Amy had met with a handyman that I guess hadn't been working for her that long. And just one time in particular, I remember they were over by the glass doors that happened to be broken that evening. And Amy was pointing it out and telling him, we need to secure this. And I would just remember, because I think I was eating a bowl of cereal and kind of strolled over kind of slowly, and she got kind of quiet. And I just felt like she didn't want me to worry or something. I don't know. But I did hear
Thank
that
you.
part.
And about how much time before February 15, 2020 was this handyman there at the house?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. February 15, 2020
Okay.
is when Amy passed away. About how much time before that date was this handyman over at her house trying to secure these doors that you're describing?
I don't know if he got to the doors or not. I just know that conversation. I know he also.
Well, that's not what I'm asking.
Okay, yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to count it up. Like maybe 4 or 5, maybe times I've seen him over there.
No,
But I don't.
how many days, when you saw the lock, was he there more than once?
Yes.
Okay.
But this one occasion that you're describing, when you're looking at these doors, that occasion, about how many days before February 15, 2020 did that happen, approximately? Or weeks?
No, it was between a week or two.
Now, drawing you to the date of February 14, 2020, Valentine's Day. Were you there at 2086 Mount Street that day?
I was.
Okay. Were you there from what time to what time were you there?
I was there all day.
And did you go to sleep at a certain point in time?
Several times, yes.
Okay. And why is that?
Because I'd been up working a lot of hours the previous 2 weeks.
Do you remember at what time you went to sleep?
Which time?
Well, you tell me what time was the first time you fell asleep?
It was probably towards the I think it was close to morning on Friday morning, because Thursday nights Friday night in China. So I remember being up to catch their Friday night. And I fell asleep towards that morning.
So on Valentine's Day, you fell asleep in the morning.
Yeah.
So do you remember how long you were asleep in the morning? Until you woke up?
I woke up several times, like to use the bathroom or get something to eat.
About how long was your longest amount of time that you slept in the morning?
Probably 3 or 4 hours, maybe.
How many?
3 or 4 hours, maybe.
Now let's take you more closer to, let's say after 6 p.m. Did you fall asleep after 6 p.m.?
Around then.
Did something wake you up after that time?
Yeah.
And what was that?
Well, I don't know what it was. It sounded like a glass plate falling upstairs. That's what I thought it was.
Now I have a CD here, Your Honor, with two 3D videos, one labeled lower level and one labeled upper level. They didn't see my people's names in order.
17.
17.
There is an objection on 2 grounds. One, that these.
Are we doing the second objection?
Sidebar.
Hello again. Please hit that thumbs up button for me, please, guys. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget, I put in chat the link to tonight's live.
Now let's play the first video clip from People 17. This is labeled the lower level. And I ask you to look at it and let me know if this fairly and accurately represents what the lower level looked back on February 15, 2020. Wait until the video has played completely. Actually, let me pause it right here. Let's start this up again. One second. Yeah, 1 second. Ron.
Yes.
I'm going to pause it at about 1 second. Do you see the structure at this point?
Yes.
Okay, it appears that the roof has been taken off so you can see onto the 3rd level.
Yes.
Does it show a 2nd level here?
Yes.
Is it off to the left? You can see part of it?
Yes, it's off to the left, next to the garage doors.
And could you see part of the 2nd level where you see the French doors that would lead into what?
Into the main living room area.
I don't want you to guess. I
Well,
want you to,
yeah, depends what you call it, but yeah, I would call it a main living room area.
I'm going to continue playing. I'm going to pause it right here. This is at 15 seconds, and it appears to be, if you're looking at the front of the home, it would be the right side, right? If you're facing the front of the home, it would be on the right side. You see there appears to be a door on the 2nd floor. You see that?
Yes.
That door leads to where?
The kitchen.
I don't know if you have a laser pointer or.
I don't think the laser's gonna work on that. You have the old-fashioned flip
Yes.
pointer there.
There we go. It's old school. You see this right here, what appears to be a door on, if you're facing the front of the home on this 3D image, it would be on the right side of the home, correct?
Yes.
So this door right here that I'm pointing to, what does that lead to? Okay, and okay, so that leads it to the kitchen. Thank you. And does that door, can you exit that door? Are there stairs that lead from that door out into the patio?
Yes.
Can you continue playing this video? Can you pause it there? So I pause it at 22 seconds. Are you able to see the stairs that lead from that kitchen door out into the patio?
Yes.
And I'll pause it now at 25 seconds. And can you describe whether your bedroom can it be seen here?
Yes.
Can you just point out the door that would lead to your bedroom on,
That's it right there.
okay, on this image that I stopped at 25 seconds, you pointed to a blue door that appears to be in the middle of what appears to be the white portion of the back of the house at the lower level.
Yes.
And what are the windows? Which are the windows to your bedroom?
This one, and this one.
Okay, and you pointed to two windows to the right of that blue door that you had just pointed to, and then a window to the side of the building on, if you're facing, the viewer facing out from looking at the back of the building, it would be on the right side to it.
Yes.
I'm gonna continue playing the video. I'm gonna pause it right here. Like what? What breaking?
like a like a dish or glass dish like falling to the floor.
And where were you when you heard this?
I was downstairs.
Did it wake you up, or were you already awake when you heard the sound?
No, it woke me up.
It was that loud?
Yeah.
So you wake up to the sound that sounds like something's breaking. What do you do?
First, I wait and listen, and because I thought Amy dropped a plate, or maybe the cat had knocked the plate over, and then I heard what I thought was Amy cleaning it up and walking over my bedroom.
I have a 3D video still showing the front of two properties, but this is my people's next in order, number 18.
Yes.
There's 18. All right. So you heard like it sounded like something was clean, or that Amy was cleaning it up.
Yeah, it sounded like, it was footsteps coming from the area where it sounded like the glass dropped, which sounded like the living room. And then steps came towards the kitchen. So I just assumed Amy had cleaned it up and was carrying it to the kitchen.
So at this point, you didn't know whether Amy was in the home or whether she had gone somewhere.
No, yeah.
And what happened after that?
I mean,
Did you go back to sleep?
I might have checked some emails, might have watched some TV and dozed back off.
There's what?
I said I might have watched some more TV, watched some TV, or used the bathroom or got something to eat, and then dozed off eventually.
It's speculation. It's
Right.
might happen.
All right, and the way he's responded is speculative, so I'll strike it. You don't exactly remember what you did, sir?
In general, I do.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
We just don't want you to guess. So if you don't know, just say you don't know.
I ate, I watched some TV, and I slept.
Okay, you're sure of that.
Yes.
And so after
And
you
used the
did that,
bathroom.
did something else happen?
Did something else happen when I
Did
did
something cause you to wake up or for you to do something?
that? Well, later that night, yeah, I heard what I assumed was Amy screaming.
Tell the jury what exactly is it that you heard?
It sounded like Amy's voice screaming, like blood curdling screams.
Could you tell what she was screaming?
It was just loud. It screams. I thought she saw a mouse, literally. Like, as crazy as that sounds, that's like the only time I've heard a girl scream like that. It's like, it was, yeah.
What was so distinctive about the way it sounded to you that Amy was screaming? What was so distinctive about it?
Well, it threw me because she wasn't being jostled. Like she was screaming from one place. So that's kind of what made me take a little while. I'm like thinking she saw a mouse or something. It's not moved. It's not moving, being jostled. That's what threw me. It took a minute to, I don't know how else to describe it. Those blood curdling screams. It was just.
Let me ask you this. Were you asleep when you first heard the screams, or were you awake when you heard the screams?
Oh, I was asleep.
So the screams woke you up?
Oh, big time, yeah.
What do you mean by big time?
Well, yeah. I woke up like hard and quick, like adrenaline pumping a little bit.
And you said they were blood-curdling screams.
Yeah.
What else were you able to hear?
Well, when I yelled up there, I yelled her name up there.
Well, tell us exactly. Say it the way you said it that night. What did you say?
Well, it took me a minute to realize there was something really wrong, and I walked to my door and I just yelled up there, Amy, just yelled.
Well, how about you yell it the way you yelled it that day?
Amy!
And when you yelled it that way, was she screaming before you yelled it that way?
Yes.
And where were you standing when you yelled Amy in the fashion you just did here in court, which sounded loud? Where were you when you yelled out Amy the way you did here in court?
Yeah, I think I was in my doorway when that happened.
Can I have another exhibit with pages? The photos? Yes. With photographs 8 through E, may this remark People's Exit Order number 19?
Yes, 19A3, and with that, council, we're gonna take a recess, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, let's be back tomorrow at 9:30. Have a safe evening. We'll see you tomorrow at 9:30. All right, thank you.
Did he say he'll be back at 9:30? It's 9:26. Oh, wait, yeah.
Did he say he'll be back
Oh,
at
shit.
9:30?
I hate hearing myself. Let's see. We'll watch this until he comes back. Because I don't know how long he's going to be. I know they're not an hour behind me. No, they can't be taking an hour break at 9.
The brother of Dr. Amy Harwick, the therapist brutally murdered in her home, allegedly by her ex-boyfriend, sits down with us to tell us more about his sister and what he knows about her accused killer. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The new trial of Gareth Pursehouse started this week out in California. Pursehouse is accused of murdering Hollywood therapist Dr. Amy Harwick back in 2020. Dr. Amy Harwick was a Pennsylvania, and she was quite high profile in Los Angeles. She was even engaged to comedian and Price is Right host Drew Carey at one point in time. And Dr. Harwick appeared in magazines, podcasts, TV news. Here's the deputy district attorney delivering the state's opening statement, explaining what they claim happened.
He broke into her house on Valentine's Day. He broke in there with a syringe loaded with a lethal dose of nicotine. And then he waited for her until she got home. He waited there for hours for her. When she arrived, she went up to her third-story bedroom and got caught by surprise by the defendant. He immediately attacked her, as evidence will show. He strangled her. And then her roommate, who was asleep in the bottom level, heard the screaming and yelled out, "Leave her alone." The evidence is going to show the defendant panicked at that moment, took Amy Harwick's debilitated body over to her bedroom balcony, lifted her up over the balcony, and dropped her to her death. You can hear that she suffered injuries to her body. Her pelvis was shattered, liver damage, brain damage. And the defendant fled the scene.
So it's believed that she was thrown over the third-story balcony. The medical examiner would determine her death a homicide, meaning that she was killed by somebody else, and that she died from manual strangulation and blunt force trauma. She was rushed to the hospital. She was pronounced dead. And investigators analyzed the crime scene, and they determined that there was evidence of forced entry and a struggle. They found blood on Dr. Harwick's bedroom door, beads from her necklace scattered in her bedroom. And then within 24 hours, Gareth Pursehouse is the person who's arrested for her murder. And it turns out that Gareth Pursehouse was Dr. Harwick's ex-boyfriend from 9 years earlier, and she had filed what we believe to be 2 protective orders against him. Harwick blocked Purshouse's number. She got new locks on her windows. She had a handyman install security cameras at her home. And by the way, after running into Pursehouse at an event shortly before the killing, Harwick emailed herself what appeared to be a journal entry detailing how scared she was after seeing him. She called Pursehouse obsessive and scary. So Purshouse's trial is underway, but what we can't forget in all of this is that an innocent life was lost in this case, Dr. Amy Harwick. And to shed some light on who Amy Harwick was and more of this story, we welcome right now to Sidebar her brother, Christopher Harwick. Christopher, thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. First of all, we haven't met before. I just want to say, I've been following the case. I am so sorry for your loss, for your family's loss. And I know particularly now with the trial going on, this must be a difficult time. So I appreciate you coming on to talk to us a little bit more about this.
Of course. I really appreciate you guys having me.
I want to start off just to get a little bit better understanding about your sister, who she was and what she was like.
So I guess for what the family kind of wants to convey about my sister, growing up, Amy was just like any other, teenage girl. She liked hanging out with friends, going to parties, and her and I had, I would call it, a pretty normal brother and sister relationship. We had our ups and downs, brothers and sisters fight. We would try to hang out as much as we could. We would go to concerts together, and just have a lot of fun that way. In 2001, when she moved.
Y'all, he did say tomorrow. Isn't tomorrow Friday the 1st? I thought they were off Friday and Monday for the holiday. I am so confused. Because I went back and listened to it, and even closed caption picked up tomorrow. So I'll just play this if you guys want. It's only like 20-something minutes long so that you get a idea of what's going on.
Moved out to California. She was very excited to do that and start her life out there. She was married to a guy in a band. He was a great guy, but unfortunately it just didn't work out. And she decided to stay out there and pursue her career and her schooling.
Why would they only go to court for like an hour and then stop? I don't know. That's weird.
Amy was very career driven. She knew what she wanted to do. She, went to school, got her master's degree, and then eventually got her doctorate in psychology and family and sex therapy. And she wrote a book. She was probably one of the most career driven people I've ever met. She loved to help people. That was her goal in life, was to be a good person and to be there for anybody that reached their hand out for help. Unfortunately, I think she was in her prime. She had a great career going. Her life was moving in the right direction, and tragically, it was cut short.
From what I've heard from people who've talked about her and I've seen videos, she seemed like such a happy person. You talk about her being career driven, and she was very successful. And I agree with you. I think she was in her prime. She had a lot more to offer the world, but she just seemed like such a happy person. And people who were friends with her would say that she seemed so genuinely interested in them. And it was kind of like a magnetic thing. Do I have the right idea about your sister?
Absolutely. She,
Yeah.
her and I would have conversations. I'd ask her, how she was doing. But then, more often than not, she wanted to see what I was doing, what I was up to. I
Right.
mean, her and I were, separated by, you know, 3,000 miles. She was in California and I was in Pennsylvania. And I knew a number of times, her and I were separated by, by an ocean plus, when I was like deployed overseas. And she'd always ask me how I was doing, in those certain circumstances. But, I was really interested in what, she was doing. But she really tried to focus on me, which I always kind of thought that was kind of cool, about my sister. Sometimes she was hard to get a hold of. Her life was very busy. She had a lot of things going on, with her career and with friends and doing side jobs and, the other cool stuff that, she was into. Her life was, it was always full of things to do and fun things to do. There was very hardly any time where I really thought that she kind of like sat down and like chilled out for a while. She was just a very, very busy person.
And first, let me just say thank you for your service as well to the country. If you can, do you remember the last time you spoke to her on the phone?
Sure. Last time I spoke to her, it was over like Facebook Messenger. And I was just about ready to redeploy out of Afghanistan. I guess that would have been in January of 2020, right at the end of January. And this would have been a couple of days after her interaction with Gareth. And she didn't allude to any negative feelings that she was having of being afraid. Uh, she didn't tell me at all about any of this stuff, and I kind of wish she would have, opened up to me about that. She really just tried to make it a more positive experience, because our conversation, because I was getting ready to come home. I was gone for a year, in the circumstances that I was in. She really didn't want to, like, I guess, put that on me.
So in other words,
worse.
she didn't even tell you that she ran into him.
No. Mm-mm.
And she wasn't saying anything about being afraid. She was just more focused on you at the time.
Correct. And her cat. She
Yeah.
showed me a lot of her cat because Marquis, the cat was her main squeeze.
How did you find out what happened?
Like that
That she
the
was killed.
incident had happened.
Yeah.
So I had just got back from Afghanistan like a couple of days before, and my wife and I went to Charleston, South Carolina, for like a little Valentine's Day weekend, and my parents uh, were at our house, at my house, watching our kids, and it was probably, I'd say, maybe 11 o'clock at night, and my wife's daughter was texting her saying that the police were at our house. So we're like, well, that's kind of strange. Like that's never happened before. So I tried to call my dad, and he finally answered. And I said, hey, like, why are the police at the house? And that's when he told me that yeah, Amy's been murdered. And it was like kind of one of those things where you never in a million years thought you would ever hear that. So it obviously caught me by surprise, and it caught my wife by surprise. All of us, it caught all of us by surprise. And um, I got a phone with him, and we packed up all of our stuff, and we immediately drove home, um, uh, and got back I guess it was that Sunday morning. And it's just kind of one of those things that you never really expect to hear or ever think of hearing that those words come out of anybody's mouth in your family, that one of your family members has been killed.
It's incredibly difficult to think about, and I'm so sorry for you and your family. And I can only imagine what that was like and hearing that. But Gareth Purshouse's name came into the mix relatively quickly. I mean, they arrested him pretty quickly. When you found out that he was arrested for the murder of your sister, were you shocked? Were you surprised? You knew who he was, right?
Yeah, so I met Gareth in, I want to say it was either late 2009 or early 2010.
That's not the guy they keep showing at the table.
When a buddy of mine flew out to LA to spend about a week with my sister after I had gotten back from another deployment. This time, that time it was in Iraq, and I met him. Um, I didn't have a lot of interaction with him. The majority of our time out there was pretty much just with my sister and her friends. Um, there was I honestly can't remember, how long I spent with her and Gareth. It could have been more than a day, uh, but I heard things from my mom when her and I would talk about things, because Amy never. I wasn't like Amy's like confidant. Like, she wouldn't like
Right.
divulge the certain types of things to me. And she never really divulged anything negative to me. It was really like I said, before, it was more everything she tried to keep on the up and up between
Did you
us.
did you ever get a weird feeling when you were talking to him?
Um, I, I mean, his profession, like, uh, his lifestyle, like, I wouldn't have really agreed with it, but
Hmm.
that's what he was doing as work. But we spent such little time together, interacting. I don't think I really got a good feeling of who the person was, because it was just so short, and I wasn't really focused on him. It was more of trying to spend time with
Right.
my sister.
Do you think he did this?
Well, and this is just me talking. I believe with the wholeheartedness of my heart that Gareth is responsible for Amy's death.
What makes you say that? Because his defense team, let me just tell you what they said in their opening statement. They said that the evidence is going to show that running into her at the event that he ran into her before the killing put him into depression, that he never, he was in pain. He said the evidence will show that he never intended to kill her. And they said that, one of the ways the jury might look at this is that he didn't throw your sister over the balcony, that she ran to the railing to run away from him, and that she was trying to get away and she fell. And they say that he didn't intend to kill her. What do you make of that?
So Amy was a very intelligent person. She had lived in that house for a long time, and with some of the evidence that I've seen from some, prior, court hearings, like we went to the preliminary hearing, um, there was some of the evidence that was given there, some of the testimony that some of the people gave, and I'm trying not. I don't want to talk a whole lot about the case, because I don't want,
Right. Right.
you know. Um, so just all those things, like, in my mind, to me personally, um, point to him being as the person that, like, he intended to do it. He went there. Nobody goes to somebody's house and breaks in for a good reason. Um,
Yeah.
and again, I don't want to get into some of
Right.
the.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you plan to attend the trial at all?
So I would like to go out there. The plan is for me to go out there during the latter part of it. I would like to see closing arguments, and the verdict,
Yep.
whatever the jury decides. It's just with a full-time job and kids and life. It's hard for me to. I really can't just go out there for the whole thing, even though I would like to be out there. To be with my parents and to support them and her friends, through this whole process, it just wasn't, it's just not the right thing to do with my job and all that stuff.
No, I
So,
understand.
I do plan on going out there. Just when, we just kind of have to wait and see how the trial progresses, and the assistant DAs will kind of let us know when they think that these milestones are gonna happen, and when it's a good time for me to come out there.
I know you can't talk about the trial, but just generally speaking, do you feel confident in the state's case?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I heard, like I, I, I've met the assistant DAs and their team a couple times, and um, they're very passionate about it. I, I believe that their case is pretty solid, and they believe that their case is pretty solid. My parents believe that their case is real solid, so there should be no, um, you know, we don't have any misgivings about their their performance that they're going to make, and the case that they're going to make against them. So
Right.
we're 100% confident in those guys.
Um, I know you said that you weren't your sister's confidant. There was, evidence coming out that she was fearful of Gareth, that she took out a protective order, at least one, believe two. There was in the opening statements by the prosecution, they talked about an email that she wrote to herself, talking about how scared she was of Gareth during the course of the last several years. Did she ever say anything to you that would strike you as she was nervous about him in any way?
So I mean, she might have mentioned it, like, hey, do you remember the guy that you met? We're not together anymore, and he was just. She never really gave any specifics, uh, to me.
Yeah.
She really kind of just said, hey, we're not together anymore. It just wasn't a good fit. Um, I would get most of this information, from my mom, and
Mm,
because she would really confide in my mom a lot. And I would ask her about these things, and she would try to change the subject and go to something more positive.
yeah. Um, what has been the last? What has it been like for the last 3.5 years for you and your family, and particularly now that the trial has just started?
So it's like a chapter in a book that you can't close. Um, these past 3 years, you always remember Amy for who she was, and she's always in your mind. Um, you try to kind of do the best you can to move on with your life, and do your normal daily things that you got to do. But it's always there, and there hasn't been any closure. Um,
Mm,
I can't say that it's been very easy, because it definitely hasn't, and uh, I think it'll be good, um, for this trial to end, and we get some type of verdict, and then we get some type of closure, uh, so we can maybe close this chapter, and then move on to the next. Um,
yeah.
it's been tough for my parents. They've they've been pretty strong through all of this. Through all of this, they've gone out there numerous times and sat through, a couple court hearings, and all the stuff that they've had to do with, closing down, parts of her life, and interacting with her friends and hearing all these stories. And then it's like every time another court hearing happens or something else happens, it brings back all those feelings again. And it'll just be good for not only my parents and me, but for the rest of my family and her friends to finally get some type of ending to this chapter. And whatever the jury decides, hopefully it's in our favor. We don't want to think about the other option, but it's been tough the past 3.5 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll just say I'm wishing you guys all the best. My heart goes out to you. And again, this is an incredibly difficult time. I really do appreciate you coming on to speak a little bit more about your sister and a little bit more about what we can expect. So Christopher Harwick, thank you for taking the time. And again, sending my best to you and the family.
Sure. If I could just add like one more thing.
Absolutely.
The police department that is in our area, I really want to say that they were extremely professional when the incident happened. A lot of people, I don't think a lot of people know this, but when it happened and the LA, the Los Angeles Police Department reached out to my the police department where my parents live. They went to their house and they weren't home because they were at my house watching our kids. So they immediately went to the next of kin, which was me, and they contacted the police department that is in my area, and they came to our house. And this was, like I said, when my wife's daughter was texting her that the police were there. The officer that came out, I can't remember his name, but he was extremely professional. After when he knocked on the door, my wife's daughter answered, and then my mom was like right behind my wife's daughter, and the officer was like, "Hey, do you know Chris Harwick?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "I need to tell him something." There was some small talk back and forth, and he says, "Well, I need to let him know that his sister's been murdered." And at that moment, he realized that he was talking to my mom, and my mom saw in his face that that he kind of realized that, like, oh man, like, maybe I should have put two and two together. But he stayed with my parents for a number of hours, after that, trying to, call the Los Angeles Police Department and the detectives. And I think that he went, above and beyond what he, what his job was to do it, because he stayed with them for so long. So, and so that's all I wanted to say was, I appreciate, their what they did as well.
Christopher, thank you for sharing that. It's, you think about these officers, that's a position that they never sometimes think about being in or want to be in. And the fact that this officer took the time to be there for your family and understand it, I mean, that's incredible to hear. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. Again, I can't say it enough, but I'm really hoping and wishing for the best for you and your family, because this is an unbelievable tragedy, a terrible loss. And as you said, I hope that throughout the process and when this finally concludes, you and your family have some sense of closure. But Christopher Harwick, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you again. I appreciate you guys having me.
And that's all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all for court today. That's a little weird. I'm going to try to find out why. And he said tomorrow at 9:30, but tomorrow's Friday. And in the beginning, he said that they were off Friday and Monday and had a 4-day weekend. So I'm really confused. So I'm going to try to figure it out, and then we'll know. So y'all have a good day. And don't forget that we'll be back at 7 Eastern for a celebration of Avriel's life with Angela. And I'll see you at 7.